Hey everyone, welcome to the Essence of Tea. My name is Jenny and I am a certified tea specialist with the Specialty Tea Institute. I am the owner and founder of Sipping Streams Tea Company, and my passion is to share the world of tea with people and to also help people have a little bit more fun in their life and learn about health and wellness and transformation through tea. So, for those of you who don't know me, I've had my company for 13 and a half years, and we're actually a manufacturer. And I think what people don't understand is that we actually come up with the tea blends. We do our own sourcing, our own packaging, and product design too. So, for those of you who have seen me around for a long time, some people locally here where we're from in Fairbanks, Alaska, might think we're just a tea shop, or we are just um a restaurant like a tea house, and we have Victorian tea and things like that. We do things, all things tea, but more importantly, we are actually a manufacturer. So let me bring you on to this amazing tea journey, and thank you so much for joining me. So for any of you who are joining me today, please say hello, pop in the chat if you like, write any of the questions that you have for me. But this is one of our very first episodes that we'll be discussing about the essence of tea. I wrote a book about 2 years ago, and it actually became bestseller on Amazon. It's called The Essence of Tea, The Transformational Journey of a Tea Connoisseur. And for those of you who don't know me that well, I have been in the tea industry for quite a while now. However, my background is actually not in tea. I didn't grow up as a tea drinker. My background is actually in coffee. I've been drinking coffee, believe it or not, since I was a little girl, about 4 or 5 years old, because I actually really like the flavor of coffee. My father would bring me around town, run his errands, and just as a little kid, I'd go sit in the living room of someone's house, and they would say, "What would you like to drink? Do you want a glass of water? Do you want a glass of juice? Do you want some milk?" And I would say, "Could I have a cup of coffee?" And they would just be dumbfounded, staring at my dad, saying, "Your daughter drinks coffee?" And my dad had no clue. He's like, "I don't know, sure." you know? And so they'd go make me a cup of coffee and bring out cream and sugar or whatever else. And I'd say, "Nope, I just drink it black." So from a very young age, I acquired a taste for things very dark. And the same thing when I learned more about wine. So my next thing that I had learned about was how to taste wine properly. And then I got into craft beers and learned about the worlds of craft beers. And then finally, eventually, I got into the world of tea. So my parents growing up, they were professional chefs. They're retired now, but my father and mother were professional chefs. And so what we would do for fun on our days off or just on the weekend was we would watch PBS and we would watch cooking shows. We'd sit down, watch cooking shows, analyze cooking shows, talk about cooking shows. So food and that kind of industry has always been a part of my life, but the world of tea was not until I went to college and I actually was studying sports medicine, specifically athletic training. So my last year of college, I started drinking tea because it was the cheapest thing on the coffee shop menu. And as a student who was about to graduate with 2 bachelors, I had a lot of student debts to pay back. And so I decided, I should probably not have my caramel macchiato or any sort of coffee drink. What's the cheapest thing on the bottom? Tea. I'll have tea. So, when you're studying and you're hanging out with your friends, it is best to support the business that you're taking up their space in. So I started drinking tea, and my friends would say, "Oh, are you drinking tea because it's healthy for you? Oh, I heard it cures cancer. Oh, are you drinking tea because you're Chinese?" And there was all these weird, random things that were literally not the reason why I was drinking tea. Honestly, I was drinking tea because it was the cheapest thing on the menu. And so that is how my tea journey began. So I want to share with you a little bit about a tea today, and I want to get it brewing and started as I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my tea journey. And I have this amazing double glassed borosilicate glass cup. So most of you might have seen these in the wine industry where there are these beautiful, elegant, double-walled glass cups. Well, you can do the same thing and highlight and accent the wonderful, beautiful notes about tea, right? We're on a show about tea. So I've got my kettle already heated up, boiling hot water. I'm going to make some Darjeeling because Darjeeling is considered the champagne of black teas from India. And we want to put about 1 teaspoon in there. Technically, it will be 2.5 grams per serving, but about 1 teaspoon works too. And we want to steep it for about 3 to 5 minutes with boiling hot water. This is not a first flush Darjeeling. So some of you might be like me, who've really gotten into the world of tea. I got a little hat here to keep the heat in. Really gotten into the world of tea and have discovered that there are literally tons of different types of Darjeeling black teas, or oolong teas, or green teas, or white teas. All teas that have the name Darjeeling are from specifically the state of Darjeeling in India. So that's how it got its name. And its signature flavor is this muscatel type of vineyardy, grape, kind of sweet, kind of a little slight puckering notes to it. And that is what's signature of the terroir of Darjeeling. So those of you who are wine sommeliers, like I said, I learned more about wine first before I got into craft beers and then got into teas. Those of you who are interested in wine tasting or have gotten into wine tasting, you might be able to relate because tea terminology is very, very similar. So when we talk about different notes, different flavors, how it hits our palates, the astringency, the mouthfeel, those are all things that have come over from the wine industry. So sometimes tea specialists like me would be called tea sommeliers because there's wine sommeliers. But for me, I like to keep the two separate. So I just like to call myself as a tea specialist and not a sommelier because I like to respect the other industry and its foundational, purpose and how it is a little bit different. But essentially, I'm extremely highly trained in tea. And that was not what I intended with my college education, all the years of school, full-time summer school, 19 credits full load every semester to get through. My full intention was to be an athletic trainer and work at a physical therapy clinic and possibly teach physical education too. So health, wellness is definitely my background. And I actually have done both of those careers. But in college, while people were asking me all of these questions about the health benefits of tea, I was explaining to them, like, I don't think that's necessarily true, and where's the research that actually proves that? So when I'd actually have to go to the library and research about sports medicine, I would actually find full case studies on tea itself, research on tea. And so I was like, okay, let me read the research. Let me share this out with you. This is what I know from what I read on this peer-reviewed research, right? Research case study. And so I would tell them how it worked for that specific demographics. Doesn't mean it works for all people, but how it worked for that demographics and what the results were. And the more that I did that, even after I finished college and I worked in a physical therapy clinic and I had my dream job and I was, contracted to a local high school to be their head athletic trainer, to deal with all of their sports injuries, nutrition, prevention of injuries, helping all of their athletes. That was what I loved to do. But I would start these conversations or jump into a conversation at work about tea for some reason. I don't know how they came up actually, but I would just be talking about something and the topic of tea would come up. And so what ended up happening was my coworkers would always say, you should start a tea company. You know a lot about tea. And I was like, no, I actually don't know a lot about tea. I've never been to a tea farm. I'm just interested in the research and the health benefits of tea. And so this just went on and on. This was this continual theme of me working at this clinic. And then I decided to quit working at that clinic and I decided to go teach English in Hong Kong. Remember, my second degree is actually in education. I'm still a certified teacher. K through 12, and but mostly in physical education. And so I always wanted to teach overseas, and I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity for me to go teach overseas from the place where I was actually born. So I was born in Hong Kong, but raised here in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I do have kind of like an eclectic background, but anyways, I just love experiencing life, learning things, and being able to share about those things. So then I was teaching in Hong Kong, and when I came back to the US, I was offered a job as a high school teacher. Again, anytime the topic of tea came up, I would just educate people of what I learned, and people say, you know what? You should start a tea company. So it actually first started as you should teach a tea elective class. So I literally taught a semester long course on tea, the health benefits of tea, the components of tea, how to steep tea, the history of tea. And that's why I was interested later on in my tea journey of creating the show called The Essence of Tea. So the same thing with Darjeeling. Darjeeling tea is a tea that's occurred in India for a long, long time. Now, everyone knows that tea is originally from China, but there are tea plants that were discovered that were indigenous and native to India. Much later, after Robert Fortune failed at smuggling tea seeds out of China to grow tea plants in India. So there's a little bit of tea knowledge for you. But I hope you really enjoyed this episode about my personal tea journey and what tea means to the rest of the world. If you didn't know already, tea is actually the #1 most consumed beverage in the entire world. In fact, in India, it's considered a commodity. But this wonderful, delicate Darjeeling tea that is grown at the foothills of the Himalayas is definitely one that you want to enjoy in a beautiful glass like this double wall glass that has this really nice stainless steel infuser that's all BPA free, that has a little hat that ends up transforming into a drip tray. This little hat was covering my tea. And when you hear more episodes, you'll hear me teach about how tea's health benefits are contained within the glass when you cover it up, because those essential oils are very, very important to giving you all the essence, all of the health benefits of that beverage. So here you go. Cheers to Darjeeling and starting this wonderful tea journey. And I hope that you join us every week as we give you another episode about tea, fun, unique things to learn about tea, health benefits, wellness, and as we bring on special guests to share with you the world of tea. Make sure you write down below anything that you're interested in learning about. We definitely want to know from our comments, our feedback, from our viewers who are people just like you interested in learning more about the world of tea. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you really, really enjoyed this episode, and I hope to see you again next week. Thank you.